it's time for Oscar predictions. This is going to be one of the most competitive Oscar races in recent history. There are so many great films that are about to be released, and we've already had some really great films this year. In this episode, I am eliminating the films, the great films, the competitive films that I believe will not receive a Best Picture nomination, but should. Fair warning, there are some very controversial picks on this list, but it's cutthroat season. It's time to eliminate the ones that are not going to get Best Picture nominations. These are controversial. Don't hang up. These are controversial, but again, like Oscar season, like these campaigns, it's cutthroat. It's a money's game. It's a game for power brokers, for legacy, for the people and the studios who have the backing to pay the money to campaign for their films. Let's jump right in. The first film on my list of eliminations for Best Picture is a foreign film, but one of the best films of the year, top 5. And even though it is a foreign film, and foreign films have been nominated in this category, Roma, and a foreign film may be nominated again, Bardo, they're not going to nominate this film. RRR, Rise, Roar, Revolt. S.S. Rajamouli directed one of the greatest spectacles I've seen in a very long time. This film is beautiful. I am hoping that it gets some crafts nominations, but Best Picture, it is not going to get a Best Picture nomination. And this is not the only international film on my list of eliminations. In my view, S.S. Rajamouli deserves a Best Director nomination. I don't know if there is money in the budget to campaign for him to get this, but unfortunately, it's not going to be nominated for Best Picture. This next one's gonna hurt. Cha Cha Real Smooth. This film was well written, well directed, well performed, but I think the competition is too stiff for Cha Cha Real Smooth to get in, so I think Cha Cha Real Smooth will not get nominated for Best Picture. Next up, After Yang. Koga Naga directed this stunning dystopian sci-fi drama starring Colin Farrell and Jodie Turner-Smith, centering around obsession with technology, connectedness, and grief. It is a beautiful film, a beautiful portrait, but it's kind of already been forgotten for the most part. So I think After Yang is not a contender for Best Picture. Speaking of forgotten films, Sundown. Tim Roth is fantastic in this subtle thriller about a terminally ill magnate that disconnects himself from love and all other possessions so that he can die in peace. The structure of this film is fascinating. It should be in the conversation, but again, this film, which came out earlier this year, is already forgotten. It's not a contender for Best Picture. You're gonna think I'm trolling. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Don't hang up. Hear me out. Michelle Yeoh is guaranteed a spot, so there are only 4 slots remaining for Best Actress. She's a shoo-in, I'm sure. This film is top 5 best wide releases of the year, and I'm pretty sure it'll be top 10 by the end of December. I'm pretty sure. But A24 and the Daniels don't have the financing necessary to campaign against juggernaut studios or legacy producers like Spielberg, Cameron, Mendes, Iñárritu, Baumbach, Aronofsky, and so on. Now sure, Moonlight won, but keep in mind, The Lighthouse and Uncut Gems, A24 films, were both snubbed. This is one of the most competitive years. I think it's going to be one of the biggest snubs, and it's not even my biggest on the list. Neutrum. Everyone in this film delivers great performances. Anthony LaPaglia, Judy Davis disappears in this role, and Caleb Landry Jones, I think, did a fantastic job, and he needs to be in the conversation. He stuns in this film. Neutrum is centered around a mass murderer named Martin, Neutrum backwards, who went on a killing spree in Port Arthur, Australia. Much of the film examines how Martin would spiral out of control and how the people in his life, the people closest to him, disregarded his mental illness. He was apparently on the spectrum. There's no buzz around this film. I just don't see how it gets in. I don't believe this will get a Best Picture nomination. Another film I think we can go ahead and eliminate from the Best Picture Oscar race is Men. I think Jessie Buckley, who may be in for a supporting actress nomination for Women Talking, and Rory Kinnear gave two of the scariest performances of the year. But this film, the film itself, is far too divisive, especially the entire third act, and it ran out of steam no sooner than it was released. So I think this is not getting an Oscar nomination. Another film we can go ahead and scratch off the list is Crimes of the Future. I think David Cronenberg's level of genius filmmaking should be rewarded. I appreciated Crimes of the Future, but there has only been a handful of horror films nominated for Oscars since 1973's Exorcist, and only one has ever won, and that was Silence of the Lambs. I just don't think there's enough steam in the engine to get Crimes of the Future across the finish line. So it will probably not be nominated for Best Picture. My next international film that will not be nominated for Best Picture is Official Competition. This is a Spanish satirical comedy starring Penelope Cruz and Antonio Banderas about awards bait of all things. This is filmmaking done right, but it will be relatively ignored. And that's a shame because Penelope Cruz gives an outstanding performance in this film, but it will not be nominated for Best Picture. A film that may not be on anyone's radar, but I think is exceptional, is The Forgiven. Unfortunately, this film failed to find an audience, but is one of the most stylish and exotic films of the year. It's a grueling portrait of exploitation. Ralph Fiennes, Ismail Canada, and Jessica Chastain are so outstanding in this film, but The Forgiven, unfortunately, will not be nominated for Best Picture. This one's kind of a no-brainer. The Academy doesn't really go for these films, but I think it's a fantastic film and should have been in the conversation. It won't be, but Marcel the Shell with Shoes On is such a great film. This is a touching story about a mollusk, a resourceful mollusk that reminds us humans how important human connection is. It's such a resounding story, a story that should resonate with us all, and I wish it were in the conversation. It's such a great story, so heartwarming. I put this on the list because it is one of the best films of the year, but there's just no way it's getting a Best Picture Oscar nomination. This next one I enjoyed immensely, but there just isn't a snowball's chance. Nope. Jordan Peele continues to prove that he ranks among the best narrative storytellers today. I think the only nomination this film may get, or one of the few nominations it gets, is for cinematography, because Hoyt van Hoytma captured some of the best shots this year. But for Best Picture, it's not getting a nomination. There are two films on this list that I haven't seen yet, but from the trailer, I see the issues, and this is one of them, The Woman King. I think Viola Davis has a chance of getting a Best Actress nomination, but as far as Best Picture, I don't think this will get a nomination. Once the discourse starts highlighting the revisionist history and commercialization of this true story of the Dahomey Empire, the campaign to get a Best Picture nomination is going to be overshadowed by that, in my opinion. Again, Viola Davis is probably going to captivate enough Academy voters to get in for her performance, but the vehicle as the film as a whole is probably not going to get a Best Picture nomination. The other film that I have not seen, but I'm basing this off the trailer alone and the narrative circulating around the industry about this film, and especially since they're already preemptively saying, no, this isn't a biopic. This is basically fan fiction. This is a dramatization of what Marilyn might have gone through. And unfortunately, Ana de Armas's accent from the trailer is kind of not there. I don't know if this film will be any good. I'm hoping it will. Plan B is behind this film 100%. So it will have some campaigning, but as far as Netflix, after it blew all that money last year campaigning for The Power of the Dog, only to lose Best Picture and only come home with 2 Oscars. It lost Best Picture to Coda. I don't think Netflix is going to put the money behind Blonde. I don't know. I think Netflix is probably out of the business of spending tens of millions of dollars campaigning for Oscars. I think those days are done. So, and Blonde, I think, will need it. I think if any film needs campaign financing, it's Blonde. But I just don't believe that this will get a Best Picture nomination based off the trailer and the other conversations going on surrounding the film. Another film I almost forgot about, I almost left off this list, Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery. This will be released in a couple of weeks. Netflix is probably not going to campaign for this film either. And here's the thing, Netflix is releasing this in theaters, in limited theaters. I don't think that's a good idea. This should get a wide release in theaters. I think there's an audience already built in and curiosity from people who missed the first film in theaters. This needs a theatrical release, like The Menu is getting a theatrical release. I think the viewers or the audience for The Menu is basically the same demographic for Knives Out 2. Netflix needs to put this film in the theaters. If anything needs a theatrical release. We've been getting theatrical release. Mac and Rita got a theatrical release. Like, this deserves a theatrical release. But anyway, I don't believe that this will get a Best Picture nomination. And it might deserve it, but I don't think it is. The competition is even too stiff for Glass Onion. That's how crazy it is in these Oscar streets. So I have 4 films remaining on this list of Best Picture eliminations. This one, Elvis. I think Baz Luhrmann did not give us his best. This structurally is all over the place. I don't think it works. The best thing about this film is Austin Butler. I believe that he gave one of the best portrayals of Elvis, one of the best performances of the year, and one of the best performances in a biopic of all time. And I believe he is a shoo-in, even though his age makes him a long shot. I think he is a shoo-in for Best Leading Actor nomination. And just like Renee Zellweger, who was in Judy wasn't a great movie, but she got a nomination. And Andra Day, who portrayed Billie Holiday, she was in a movie that wasn't the best, but she was the best thing about it. And even Respect, although it wasn't nominated, and Jennifer Hudson wasn't nominated for playing Aretha Franklin. She was snubbed. She should have been nominated. But she's the best thing about that film, and I think that's what's going for Austin Butler. He's the reason to watch this and to come back watching it over the years. But as a film, an Oscar nomination for Best Picture, I don't think Elvis will be nominated. Third to last, The Batman. Now this is tricky. I think Matt Reeves deserves a Best Director nomination. This iteration of Batman was one of the best, in my opinion. It's comic hero done right. This is also one of the best portrayals of Batman in a long time. The visuals, the score, the story, the pacing, the intensity. This was all around a great film, and any other year, maybe it'd get in. But this year, the competition is too stiff. I don't think it has enough gas to make it all the way to next year for the nomination. I just don't think it gets in. That's sad. That's unfortunate, because The Batman is one of the best films of the year and one of the best Batman iterations in a long time. The second to last film on my list that I believe will not receive a Best Picture Oscar nomination is actually my favorite film of the year. My number 1 film of the year is The Northmen. The Northmen is a masterpiece. Robert Eggers delivered the best film of the year and directed some of the best performances I've seen in a really long time. I think Alexander Skarsgård was fantastic in this film, and Ethan Hawke and Nicole Kidman. Everyone in this film was great. And the story was fantastic. It's visually beautiful. Everything about this film is a masterpiece. But I don't think that there's enough backing behind The Northmen to get it over the hump. And I'm so glad it's resonating with audiences now. Viewers found it on digital. It didn't do well in the theater, but It found an audience, and I'm so glad I saw this 3 times in the theater. I love, love, love this movie. I just don't think it's going to get a Best Picture Oscar nomination this year. The last film on my list that I believe will not receive a Best Picture Oscar nomination this year is also one of my favorite films of the year, and will be, in my opinion, in my prediction, the biggest snub. Top Gun Maverick. Maverick is about to be the 7th highest domestic box office grosser of all time, unseating Avengers Infinity War by tomorrow, Tuesday. But there has to be a snub, and it's this one. The industry, this is my opinion, this is how I see it. I think, no, not the industry, the Academy. I think the Academy doesn't appreciate what Tom Cruise brings to films and to filmmaking. He is the last greatest action hero, the biggest movie star on the planet, and has been for a very long time, and he doesn't play this Hollywood game. I appreciate him for that. He doesn't have to, but he doesn't play this game because he doesn't make films for the industry. He's a fandom filmmaker, and by that I mean he makes films for fans, the way Beyonce makes music for her fans, for the Beehive. Tom Cruise makes films for the audience. That is his central focus, and that's why he gives 1,000% and has been snubbed relentlessly. It's so many times you can't even count them. And last year, No Way Home was ushered audiences back into the theater after a pandemic. It should have been nominated for Best Picture last year to show the appreciation, to show the fans that this is what it's all about, and it was grossly outright snubbed. And I get the sense that Maverick will see the same fate. Biggest movie of the year, probably until I don't think Black Adam's going to beat it. Probably until the closest that'll come to Maverick may be Wakanda Forever, and then it may not be because it only has November, because then Avatar is coming in December. So, and then that's going to cut off the year. It's only going to be a couple of weeks in release, and then it's 2023. So Maverick will be the biggest film of the year, and the Academy is going to snub him again. And he is a producer, so getting a nomination for Maverick and winning would finally get Tom Cruise the Oscar he deserves, and he's going to be snubbed. That's it, gang. That completes my list of films I believe will not receive Best Picture Oscar nominations this year. I know some of these picks are crazy. I'm plumb out of my mind to even consider adding Everything Everywhere All at Once on this list, and even Top Gun Maverick. But we see snubs, the craziest snubs every year. And although they're outlandish, I added them because I'm looking at the culture of the committee and history. That's how I compiled my list. But anyway, thank you so much. If you stuck around this long, I know this is a very long video, but thank you so much. I certainly appreciate you. Please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And until next time, peace.